activity nearby. Heads up, narco with a submachine gun. Over by the parking area.
In the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit, Santa Muerte, Señora Poderosa, we invoke your spirit to join us today to bless this gathering of your faithful. Hermanos, I stand before you a man humbled, for I was once a proud man, a vain man. I once thought I was somebody, pero ahora I have cowed, craven and tearful in the face of that awesome power.
Got a target carrying
the
submachine
blind
guns.
justice of Santa Muerte.
Got eyes on our target. Probably the man running the place on behalf of the cartel. Is he saying something deep or something crazy?
When in doubt, bet on crazy.
Amen to that.
Okay, tell me if you've heard this one. A sailor sitting in a bar.
I've heard this one.
I don't give a shit. Anyway, this sailor's sitting in a bar and he leans over to the guy next to him and he says, "You want to hear a Marine joke?" And the guy next to him replies, "Before you tell the joke, you ought to know. I'm 6 feet tall, weigh 200 pounds, and I'm a Marine. The guy next to me is 6'2", weighs 225, and is also a Marine. And the guy next to him, he's 6'5", weighs 250, and is a Marine too." Now he says, "Do you still want to tell that joke?" The sailor thinks about it for a minute, then shakes his head. "Nah," he says, "I don't want to have to explain it 3 times."
I forgot you put mines. And I didn't even see him.
There's this guy in Amsterdam, and he goes to his priest for confession. He says, "Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. During World War II, I hit a refugee in my attic." The priest listens and shakes his head. "There is no sin in that," he says. But then the guy hangs his head. "I made him pay me 20 guilders a week, or I said I'd turn him in." The priest thinks it over. "Well, I admit that wasn't a very good thing to do, but at least it was done for a good cause," he replies. The guy heaves a huge sigh of relief. "Thank you, Father," he says. "I've got just one more question." "What is it?" the priest asks. "Do I have to tell him that the war's over?" No more tangos here.
Unidad wants Elway dead for killing that officer. Sueño wants him dead to make peace with Unidad. And you destroyed the guy's pyrolusite operation. You gunslingers have fucked up Elway's world for good.
I hope he isn't taking it personally.
You can ask him in person. If he wants to stay breathing, Elway's got nowhere else to turn but us. And I want to know what he knows.
Got a lead on his 20?
Unidad is hunting him down. Head to their base, see if you can find intel on his location there.
Jesus. You like giving us the impossible missions. Just give us a call if you find something out before we have to sneak into the devil's asshole.
I thought you liked poking around the devil's asshole. Bowman out.
That ought to keep their polvo from turning nice and white.
You know pyrolusite is used to filter water, too. There are other ways to manage that, though, right?
Fuck it. I was drinking bottled water anyway. So these two Marines board a flight to Houston.
Marines and planes. This ought to be good.
No sooner had they settled down into their seats than an Army corporal comes down the aisle and took the seat next to them. So the corporal settles in, pulls off his boots, and gets comfortable. Now the two Marines take one look at this guy and decide they're gonna have a little fun. After the plane's in the air, the Marine in the window seat turns to the corporal. "Hey buddy," he says, "you mind grabbing a drink for me?" "No problem," the Army guy says, and hops up to get a drink from the flight attendant. While he's gone, the Marine takes one of the corporal's boots and spits in it.
That's just nasty.
The corporal comes back with the Marine's drink. He's just getting comfortable again when the second Marine grins and says, "Hey man, that drink sure looks good. You mind getting one for me too?" And you know what? The corporal just grins. "You bet," he says, and hops right on up. As soon as he's gone, the Marine grabs the other boot and hawks a big old loogie right inside. The Marines sit back and enjoy their drinks now. A couple hours later, the bird touches down and the corporal pulls on his boots. Right away, he knows what's happened. He turns to the jarheads, who are both giving him these shit-eating grins. How long must this go on? This hatred, this animosity, this spitting in boots and pissing in drinks.
This is one of those legal coca farms.
So, like, can we get some legal coca here? For the altitude?
For the altitude, yeah.
You are not having any coca. You know first thing headquarters is gonna do when we get back home is make us piss in a cup.
But the altitude, it's getting hard to breathe.
Shut up. Target is down. Say again, target is down.
Copter, get down.
Am I understanding this? Unidad does some logistics and security for the cartels in exchange for a chunk of the cocaine pie, right?
Right.
Without Unidad, Santa Blanca don't have much of a chance down here in Bolivia, right?
Right.
So we, us, the four of us and Bowman and whatever SIGINT nerds she has stashed away wherever, just us, we're fighting an international drug cartel as well as the elite military forces of the sovereign state of Bolivia.
Give the man a cigar.
I should have brought more guns. Shit, I should have brought my tomahawk. Y'all should have told me this bullshit was serious. I could have been a little bit more prepared. I would have brought more protein bars.
I just like
Oh.
having extra.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just dirt poor.
I like
Alright.
surplus of things.
Genius crazy.
My guess?
Like
El
porn.
Pozolero's
No.
gonna be a completely normal, completely rational guy. It's like your Mexican uncle or something. Whatever he does with
Does
his
like
bodies,
this.
wherever they go, to him it's just as simple as washing the dishes.
Well, that's about the scariest fucking scenario you could have come up with. Now I'm expecting we're gonna go find El Pozolero in the middle of all this wilderness with a goddamn ranch house and a white picket fence, mowing his motherfucking lawn. And then he'll be like, "Hey y'all, come check out my garden. You know how hard it is to grow daffodils out here?" And just as we bend down to sniff the goddamn daffodils, he takes a fucking weed whacker to our faces, chops our fucking faces off, and just shreds them like, chugga 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 chugga.
That was very detailed, Holt. Although you may not be 100% accurate in your theory, I agree that we should proceed with caution.
Well, I appreciate that, boss.
You okay?
Saving that.
How many nights we've been out here? I'm losing track on my underwear.
You got right side out, front ways and backwards. Then inside out, front and back. I'm right side back. I haven't been changing them.
Yeah, I'm thinking Santa Blanca can smell us from about 5 clicks out by now.
So an Army Ranger, a Recon Marine, a SEAL, and a Delta operator are sitting around a campfire.
Here we go.
The ranger, being a ranger, starts bragging about how tough he is. You think you guys are tough, he says? I parachuted behind enemy lines, done a 50-mile night march, and killed a dozen terrorists with my bare hands. The Recon Marine is like, man, that ain't shit. I've landed on a beach in the dark, marched 60 miles without stopping, and killed 50 terrorists with my bare hands.
Marines can talk? I call bullshit.
Anyway, the SEAL is like, bitch, please. I've swam 70 miles from a submarine, landed on a beach, marched 80 miles without stopping, and then strangled a whole damn terrorist camp with my bare hands. The SEAL gives him all this big shit-eating grin and turns to the Delta operator. Top that, he says. The Delta guy doesn't say a word. He just shakes his head and keeps on stirring the coals of the fire with his dick. There's an Air Force colonel and a Delta operator sitting next to each other on a flight out of King Khalid.
Is this the one where the Delta operator skins the Air Force colonel and wears him like a suit?
What? No, different story.
Oh man, I love that one.
Anyway, they're both headed back home after a long deployment. The Delta guy's been out in the desert doing, Delta stuff, and he just wants to rack out for a while. But the Air Force colonel, he's on, his 8th espresso, and he's feeling chatty. So the colonel says, hey, you want to play a game to pass the time? It's a great game, you'll love it. Here's how it works. I ask you a question. If you can't answer it, you pay me $5. Then you get to ask me a question. If I can't answer it, I pay you $500. The Delta guy sighs and thinks it over. Go ahead, he says. The colonel grins, What's the distance between Earth and Neptune, he says. The Delta operator thinks a minute. Finally, he frowns and reaches into his pocket and hands over $5. The Air Force guy, he grins. He figures he's going to take this Delta guy for all he's worth. Your turn. The operator looks him in the eye. He says, what goes up a hill on 4 legs but comes down again on 3? Then he lowers his head and he goes back to sleep. The colonel thinks and thinks. He gets out his smartphone and scours the internet for answers, but he can't find it. He calls up his buddies back in Saudi and asks them for help, but they can't find the answer either. Finally, the colonel admits defeat, pulls out $500, wakes up the Delta guy, and hands the money over. The operator pockets the money without a word and closes his eyes again. But the colonel just can't let it go. He wakes the Delta guy up. He says, I gotta know. What goes up a hill on 4 legs but comes down again on 3? The Delta guy stares at the colonel for a second. Then he reaches in his pocket, hands the colonel $5, and goes back to sleep.
You know what I want to do so badly? Snipe an HVT in a helicopter.
Eyes on a small group of tankers.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
It's showcased in the trailer, so I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
What the fu- Is this what we doing? Or are we going to the marker?
No.
Okay. What the fuck? I'd say we take advantage of this now.
It might land on us and kill us. What the?
I don't know what it's doing, Mac. I do not know. I'm down. Dang it. And it's off. Wow. Alright.
Hey, did you hear the Pentagon had too many generals, so they decided to get rid of some of them?
It's about damn time.
Well, somebody with the Joint Chiefs came up with the idea of offering $10,000 of severance pay for each inch of the general's body. The generals could be measured any way they chose. An Air Force general goes first. He's a smart guy, so he says he wants to be measured from head to toe. They measure him and come up with 70 inches, so he accepts a severance of $700,000. Next up was an Army general. This guy says he wants to be measured from the tip of his right finger to the tip of his left finger. The measurement comes out to 80 inches. The Army general smiles and takes a severance of $800,000. So the two generals are mighty damn pleased with themselves. But this Marine general's been watching the whole thing, and after a couple minutes, he steps up and says, "You pukes are gonna measure me from the tip of my dick to the bottom of my balls."
Man, Marine generals are kinky.
The men doing the measuring are confused. "Sir, are you sure you understand how this works?" "Just do it, maggot," the Marine general barks, and then he drops his trousers. Well, the two men get out the measuring tape, they steel their courage, and they get to work. So they start at the tip of his dick, but as they work their way down, they see the general's got no balls.
Plot twist.
One of the men says, "Sir, where are your balls?" "Left them back in Vietnam." Alright, so there's these two soldiers.
Here we go.
Not again.
So there's these two soldiers. The first soldier asked the second, if you knew a nuclear bomb was about to go off in 5 minutes, what would you do with the rest of your life?
Disarm the bomb.
No, man, look, they can't disarm the bomb.
Why not?
Because it's a joke. So the first guy asked the second guy, what would you do with the last 5 minutes of your life? The second guy thinks a minute. He says, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die happy. So I'd fuck the first thing that moved. After another minute, the second soldier turns to the first and asks, how about you? What would you do with the last 5 minutes of your life? The first guy looks at the other soldier and says, me? I'd stand very, very still for 5 minutes. Come on, that's funny.